Greetings everyone, Marty here. So today in my first, and let's hope not the last video, I will talk with you about this niche, obscure, unknown game. Wait a second, what? What do you mean
Pathfinder.
Jacob from XP to level 3 just released a Pathfinder video and he liked it? It's probably satirical. No? What? You're kidding. Matthew Mercer will be playing Pathfinder in 2 shots? On Geek and Sundry? What are they trying to do? Make my niche game for math nerds into a mainstream? It can't be happening. I need to hurry up. All the content makers will steal the hype. Launch it, launch it! But before I introduce you to my beloved, I mean my favorite tabletop role-playing system, let's find out what family she comes from. A brief tale of the fate of Paizo Studios. Paizo originally made adventures for D&D 3.5, pretty good ones as the internet says. Yes, Galarian was born even before the first Pathfinder. Old-timers are familiar with the titles like Rise of the Rune Lords or Curse of the Crimson Throne. It's all those good old days. Then the company that owned D&D, Wizards of the Coast, put out a 4th edition of their game. It was a resounding failure. People wanted the same old game but bigger and better, but got completely different product. At the same time, the scandal with the new license started. Wizards obliged everyone who wanted to release content for the new game to pay them a lot of interest. Because of this, a huge number of studios turned their backs on the 4th edition of D&D, including Paizo. They decided to give people what they demanded, a revision of D&D 3.5 with their own tweaks, setting, and subsequently a whole bunch of new and most importantly compatible content. So the first Pathfinder appeared and gained huge popularity, becoming the most popular fantasy TTRPG in the world for a moment. A few years later, after the 4th D&D is no longer supported, Wizards take a desperate step. They released the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. We can speculate a lot about how this happened. A huge number of factors and right decisions played a role. As a result, as it's obvious to all of us, D&D conquered the whole industry. And then came the big important event, the release of Pathfinder 2nd edition. Developers took into account the failure of the 4th edition of the D&D, the disadvantages of the 5th edition, and decided to move away from overcomplicated 1st edition of PF, making a new, innovative, if you ask me, game. It wasn't that long ago that the second OGL license scandal was going on. Everyone has probably heard of it. Paizo were heroes then. They fought back against Wizards, united independent indie studios, made truly open RPG license, and decided to break away from the D&D legacy completely. Okay, stay awake. Lore drop is almost over. What do we have today? D&D 5e was the most popular game ever, and it still is. The 2024 rules revision was recently released, which has been received by the community with mixed at best reviews. Well, as it for me, for stealing rules from Pathfinder I praise, for their terrible implementation I scold, but in general terms, the game remains exactly the same as it has been for 11 years. And as for Paizo, everything went uphill for them after the scandal. A boom of popularity, you could say. And we've also recently had a remaster of old books to untie them from the WotC property. That remaster in turn was a great initiative. The updated rules have brought nothing but positive polish and useful tweaks, and the community has grown significantly. So friend, you've picked the near perfect time to find out what the fuss is about. Let's get started. What is this Pathfinder 2nd edition anyway? Is it like Kingmaker from All Cat Games? Is it like an overstuffed 1st edition of Pathfinder? Is it like homebrew for D&D? No, and no again. Pathfinder is its own game. But sure, it has your classic fantasy elements like wizards, rogues, clerics, fighters, magic system with spell slots, its own high fantasy world, and the same dice and d20 rolls. But the game itself is nothing like any of those I just mentioned in almost every single way. So drop your D&D assumptions right now. PF2 in its core is a heroic high fantasy game, where your characters are skilled adventurers even at level 1. The world drips with magic, and max level play means epic stakes, annihilating demon armies, deciding the fate of kingdoms, and of course, saving the world. No crawling in dirt or fighting rats for stale bread here. The game's foundation lies in its tactical combat built on teamwork, unshakable balance, and customization so deep you could implement almost any character ideas. So let's talk about what makes this PF so special? We'll start at the beginning. Character creation. Something many people love the system for. You can fulfill almost any fantasy here. In D&D, you roll stats, choose a race, pick a background and a class. If you're lucky, maybe the background or class give you one extra choice, and that's usually it. In Pathfinder, the fun starts right away. You assemble your character like a Lego set. No randomness here, every brick adds to your stats, abilities and flavor. You choose an ancestry, which give you bonuses to ability scores, defines your speed, give extra health at first level, by the way, and usually some unique abilities like dark vision or water breathing. There are quite a few options, ranging from the familiar elves, humans, goblins and halflings to the downright weird automatons, awakened animals, sentient plants and animated dolls, with catfolk, fish people and kobolds somewhere in between. They all have heritages, meaning not all members of the same ancestry are the same. A forged dwarf has fire resistance, an ancient blooded dwarf resists magic better, and the stone dwarf stands firmer on his feet. After that, you choose a first level ancestry feat. Yes, in Pathfinder your ancestry will gain new abilities just like classes. Maybe you want to walk in heavy armor with a tower shield. The unburdened iron feat will remove speed penalties. Want to deal a bit more damage? Mountain strategy makes your hit hurt more against enemies of the dwarven kind, like giants and orcs, as well as anyone who lands a critical hit on you. And this is just the beginning. In the basic book, dwarves can choose from 7 level 1 ancestry feats, and this list will only grow with your levels. At 5th level, feat can allow you to see even in magical darkness. At 9th level, you can become even tougher and gain extra HP. At 17th level, you could even turn into a stone statue and become invulnerable for a moment. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You can toss away your dwarven heritages and become a Dhampir dwarf, a Nephilim, what we call Aasimars and Tieflings. Or maybe there were some fire elementals in your bloodline that could make you an Ifrit dwarf. All of this unlocks even more thematic possibilities. Suck blood, teleport like a devil, or sprinkle your dwarf with the fire magic of the Ifrits. Then we choose the background. Pathfinder has ton of these. And every book or adventure adds more thematic ones. From the backstory, you also get stat boosts, skill trainings, and a skill feat. Yes, skills have feats too, expanding how you can use them. For example, the bartender backstory teaches you diplomacy and knowledge of alcohol. And the hobnobber feat that lets you gather rumors and information in settlements twice as fast while avoiding critical failures when asking around. And now the juiciest part, the class. Pathfinder has way more classes in D&D. They're all super diverse, support many playstyles and fill different roles in the group. We've got the classics like fighters, monks, clerics, but also unique ones like oracles who are suffering from the eternal curse that gives them their powers. The magus, who weaves magic into strikes of his weapons. The mystical psychic that can pop heads with the power of his mind. Or the all-knowing investigator who is filled with Sherlock Holmes and Columbo references. And so much more. Let's pick a champion for our dwarf. Pathfinder's version of D&D Paladin. They are called like that because a deity chooses them as their champion and their blade. But don't worry, you can call them paladins and holy warriors and death knights in universe. It's not banned, you know. The class determines your basic combat stats like weapon and armor proficiency, saving throws and health, which isn't rolled. Remember, no randomness in building or leveling up. Champions get their hard-earned 10 health per level every single level. In Pathfinder, the champion is an insanely durable powerhouse tank, protected by their god's favor. And with divine reactions, he can shield his allies from harm and punish his enemies. At first level, you choose a god. This determines what subclasses and options are available to you. For example, Torak, patron of the dwarven kind and god of blacksmiths, won't let you become an unholy death knight, and Asmodeus won't associate with you if you're a filthy do-gooder. Depending on your god, you pick an oath, a subclass. Yes, at first level, like any class in Pathfinder. You also can be holy, unholy, or kinda neutral. Holy Champions of Redemption doesn't just protect allies, they weaken enemies, forcing them to reflect on their actions. A Champion of Justice protects friends by punishing foes with their blade. And, for example, as a Justice champion, you could play a holy noble knight or unholy villain, because justice is determined by the strong ones. Or just choose to avoid this cosmic drama and do your things. Champions of the Oath of Desecration only protect themselves while dealing extra damage to enemies. After that, the champions can pick a special magical ability to heal allies, that will be Lay on Hands, punish enemies with Touch of the Void, or do a little bit of both, protection and aggression, with Shield of the Spirit. They also get a class feat that unlocks new combat maneuvers. You could, for example, improve your action economy with the shield and pick defensive advance, upgrade your reactions with subclass specific feats, or even get a loyal mount that will level up alongside you with Faithful Steed feat. All this is available at first level, and Champion is a non-spellcaster class. The sheer number of possible characters is just insane, and every choice makes your character mechanically unique while adding depth to their story and flavor. The second pillar is balance. One might assume that with so many options the game is easy to break. You make a Hexadin from that YouTube video and go one-shot all the gods? Wrong! This problem was glaring in the first edition and in D&D 5e, and Paizo did everything to avoid it. The balance of everything in the system became one of the game's main features. But what does this mean? All the options you choose customize your character horizontally. You gain more abilities, improve specific aspects of the character, make the game more varied and adjusted to the story. But you'll never see a feat or an ancestry ability that just says, "Oh, now you deal the most damage in the game. Now you're the best tank in the game and nobody can kill you." Or, "One level dip in that warlock and I can solo the adventure." Vertical power of your character grows naturally with your level. That means no amount of customization will let you just jump over this natural progression and become the most powerful being in the universe just because you knew the right builds, you knew the right feats to take. But the game will never feel stale because at every level you will make choices. Improving skills, gaining feats, there won't be a single moment where you aren't given something interesting to pick from during your character progression. No dead levels and no inequity. This balance works primarily thanks to the core proficiency system. We also have a proficiency bonus, but it works differently. It is divided into tiers. Untrained, like in D&D, gives you +0, Trained +2, Expert +4, Master +6, and Legendary +8. But the key difference is that your level is added to every value you're proficient in. That not only includes your rolls, but also DCs against which enemies will roll, for example your armor class. Numbers might look big, especially at high levels, but the math works smoothly from level 1 to 20. And it inherently supports narrative of heroes growing in power. By the way, check this awesome video, cause it inspired me to make this one. At level 1 you have 0 chances to wound an ancient dragon. Even a natural 20 only turn a critical miss into a regular miss. So yes, in Pathfinder 2000 peasant with bows can't defeat all enemies. You need legendary heroes to match the villains. Meanwhile, a mob of goblins or low-level undead won't threaten level 15 heroes at all. And this math miraculously creates story where stakes escalate and dangers become global, and you can easily experience those higher level adventures because higher level play isn't just playable, it is fun and exciting and not broken. Cool, isn't it? But balancing the system isn't just this math. Classes are balanced against each other. No OP ones, no useless classes that aren't worth even playing. Yeah, Ranger dishes out nearly the highest damage in the game. And fighters are sometimes considered too strong by newbies. This also means casters aren't overpowered. Battles aren't decided by one spell. There is no save or suck. Teamwork and cooperation is the key. And this is achievable because critical successes and failures don't just happen on natural 20s or 1s. If you roll 10 above or below the target number, it will be a crit. So if the kobold only have 16 AC and you roll 26 to hit, it will become a critical hit. This means team bonuses never go to waste, and every +1 matters. But you can't just break the game with infinite bonuses, like in PF1, since all bonuses are split into 3 types: item, status, and circumstance. And they don't stack within the same category. How cool is that? Elegant and simple. Balance is also applied to building encounters, and that's why GMs love this system. For the first time since 4th edition D&D, the stated difficulty levels actually work. Can you imagine? New GMs don't need to read endless Reddit threads or Discord rants to fix broken challenge ratings. Thanks to the polished math, a monster 2 levels higher is always a good mini-boss. A monster 4 levels lower than the party will always be a weak minion. And 4 equal level enemies are always a serious threat. And the coolest part is that the encounter building rules don't change from level 1 to 20, and you'll never need to calculate thousands of XP or wonder if a random banshee will TPK the party. 2 gorgeous tables and you're set to go for ages.
What the fuck is this?
Lastly, balance extends to magic items. Everyone loves loot. But GMs often hate hanging it out because in some systems items ruin balance. A +2 AC bonus make you invincible. 2 bags of holding and the party becomes war criminals. With nukes, only 1 immovable rod spawns another cringe D&D horror story on Reddit. Pathfinder developers took a different approach. They standardized items, assigned prices, and just baked them into the progression. Heroes will find loot, upgrade their gear, and GMs get tools to manage it. Instead of just free attunement items, you will have 10 investment slots. And no silly attunement time, just equip a helmet or a shield or a sword and you're ready to go. The game expects a +1 weapon by level 2. The game expects spellcasters to get their staves. And expects that party will have a way to get consumable items one way or another. Gold matters because every item, except legendary artifact of course, has a fixed price, which GM can adjust of course, but it's usually not even needed. This creates a working economy in the game. Not logically working per se, but working in the game. Money becomes a resource to manage, and this is fun. Do you save up for flaming sword on the next level? Prioritize healing potions because your group takes too much damage? Or buy a charm of fire resistance because you know there will be fire enemies ahead. These choices add tactical depth in the game outside of combat. This hugely rewards planning and thinking, and it lets you prepare for the dangers ahead. The next pillar of PF is the strategic component of the combat system. It's the perfect example of easy to learn, hard to master. The basics are easier than even in D&D, thanks to free action system. Forget about bonus action, free movement action, 1 free interaction action. You have free actions and you can spend them however you want. Walk up and make 2 attacks? Easy. Raise a shield, intimidate an enemy and strike? You got it! Even use free spells for 1 action each. All of these things can be done. Many special maneuvers and most spells require 2 actions. And sometimes even more. There are even spells that can be cast 2 rounds in a row for a cool Kamehameha attack. And opportunity attacks, we call them reactive strikes, are not given for free. Monsters and characters don't have them by default. It's a separate ability, which is somewhat uncommon. Only fighter class gets it on the 1st level right away, and most other martials can take it on 4th or 6th. And yeah, it's strong and it triggers much more often, and it can even disrupt enemy spells or movement. But it's still an option. And due to this, movement in combat is freed, and the speed becomes important. Because each stride costs an action and you cannot divide it, you won't believe it, it becomes strategically advantageous to take good positions, surround enemies, and sometimes even hit and run. Yeah, you can do it. You can even kite bosses and other mobs. And all this returns us to the teamwork, the main focus of the fights in Pathfinder. Because making OP build and solving the adventure is not an option. Cooperation with your party members becomes most important thing. All classes have different roles they can fulfill in the group, and the system only encourages you to help each other and expects you to kind of work as a team, at least to try. In conditional D&D, often the fight will look quite simple, and to my taste, a little bit boring. Fighter and barbarian just engage in melee with the enemy and then just spam attacks, kinda, each round. And party casters just are waiting for the enemy to fail a save from hold person, dashes, laughter, hypnotic pattern and win the fight in 1 round. When in Pathfinder, even at level 1, a round of combat can look incredibly interesting. The cleric uses Bless to give all allies in the aura bonus to attacks, and raises a magical shield around himself. The fighter with one-handed weapon strides up to an enemy, hits him with snagging strike which makes enemy off guard for the whole party, then prepares aid to assist Barb on his attack.
The barbarian rages
for free, and yeah, they can do it all day long.
and then demoralizes the enemy to lower his defenses, runs up and strikes, dealing massive critical damage thanks to fighter setup and cleric's buff. And then wizard uses command spell to make the enemy fall to the ground, then throws a force bolt at him for remaining action. And all of this brings party closer to victory. Everyone's contribution is incredibly important, and effectiveness is not measured by DPR, when every buff, debuff or control has its own weight. And all of this together makes the combat system much deeper, but still leaving room for the simplest of ideas. A dual-wielding Flurry Ranger, for example, can still just spam 4 attacks each turn, starting from level 1, and that will be the most effective thing he will do. Some may find it boring, but for pro gamers there are still complex alchemists, investigators and casters. But having such simple options is important for people who have a hard time with tactical games, or those who just don't want to bother. The game gives you the options to determine how complex you want to see your character's gameplay. One of the key aspects of exciting combat is degrees of success system. They are widely used in the system almost everywhere. Effects of spells and maneuvers can be different on critical success, success, failure and critical failure. For example, the simplest first rank spell, Fear, will not affect the enemy if he rolls a critical success, will scare him a little bit on successful save, will scare him a lot on a failure, and on critical failure the enemy will be fleeing for a round and super scared. Similarly works even athletic maneuvers, for example Trip. On a critical success, the enemy fall and even take some damage from the fall. On the successful trip attempt, enemy will just fall prone. On a failure, nothing will happen. But if you critically fail a trip attempt, the enemy can put you on the ground automatically. But let's face the truth. Cool gameplay and interesting character building is very attractive to players. But often, what you're going to play on a Friday night is decided by who? That's right, your game master. So let's talk about why Pathfinder is so attractive not only for players, but also for GMs. A field where WotC product is not doing so well. Let's start with the fact that the rules just work. I know it sounds funny, but almost everything in the game just works as written. You don't have to go to the Crowfor's Twitter to find out what heavily obscured means, or how the hell invisibility works in the game. You don't have to work with the screwdriver and a duct tape every night to get the system into a playable and satisfactory state. Everything has already been done for you by experienced game designers. Every aspect of the game saves you time, which you can spend on thinking about actual story and your players' characters. And the system gives you just a giant toolkit for all your needs. Thanks to the working gold economy and guidelines on the loot, you do not have to rack your brain to determine how much +1 sword costs and when it will be okay to give to the party. We got you! It will be a second level item and it costs 35 gold. And this handy table will tell you how much loot and gold is okay to give out at different levels. Maybe you want to make your own monsters. Here is a great monster builder. Wanna make complex traps, chase scenes, reputation system, debates or political games? For all this, there are optional subsystems, with which you can customize your game as you like, even shift the focus towards more narrative encounters. Another important plus that many people miss when thinking about the work of GMs is the interesting combat gameplay. When I came to PF2, it was hard to believe. I realized how much more fun I had playing with monsters. I loved the battles. When before that, I thought it was not the most fun aspect of running TTRPGs. Either players steamroll your boss or your boss TPKs the party. A lot of bestiaries and great monster builder offer really cool opponents that you really want to play as. And the free action economy system keeps it all from becoming a slugfest. One goblin runs behind a tree, hides and shoots. Another takes out the dog slicer, runs up and hits. The third just makes 3 attacks and the fourth steps away from the fighter and runs away for 2 actions. Fast, spectacular and interesting. Added to this is the rarity system of everything and anything in the game, which allows you to customize the tone of your game the way you want. The plot with murder mystery will not be trivially skipped by mind reading, road movie will not be destroyed by a sudden teleport, and the tragic death of the hero will not be devalued by easy access to resurrection magic, because all these options are uncommon and rare, and it is written in the rules and players will not have access to them without your permission. Unlike the
common ones that they have access to all of the time, which makes it even easier to run games and doesn't require banning books, classes, spells, subclasses. We don't even have such practices among GMs in Pathfinder because everything is already taken care of. Let me also remind you that Paizo was originally a company specializing in adventures, and we have a lot of them. Their quality is dramatically better than the competitors, but the bar isn't too high, you know. And the main plus is that you can often play them right out of the box, as they say. Although tweaks will never hurt anyone, it's much better than the approach of, "Hey, Game Master, there's a pile of characters and plot hooks. Nah, we don't know how it works. Make up something yourself, you're the GM for God's sake. But thanks for $35, good luck in Barovia." We have one-shots, short one-book adventures, huge epic campaigns for 10 and 20 levels, and even a pack of freebies for beginner players. In general, I have not seen a game that would treat game masters with more love. The fact that developers respect my time and labor can be felt in all aspects of the game. And well-written rules with a lot of pre-made options only simplify the process of creating something of your own. Because you don't have to make up the numbers, prices, effects with no guidelines or examples. And since we touched the topic of adventures, I can't help but praise Paizo products. Despite the fact that the studio is 10 times smaller than WotC, and they release content in some obscene amount. This includes adventures of all stripes, books with additional content in form of classes, and options for existing characters. And in addition to this, Paizo also releases lore books. Yes, official actual hardcover books that tell you about regions, gods, legendary characters in universe, and other aspects of the setting. I was pleasantly surprised by the opportunity to get acquainted with Galarian without having to pull up ancient archives with books from past editions. And there also are some thematic options for characters in those books as well. Last year Paizo even resurrected novel production. And now we can read fantasy fiction in our favorite decorations. Yay! But don't just believe my word, let me give you a practical demonstration. Let's just summarize previous year, shall we? In 2024, Paizo released 7 Dooms for Sandpoint, a 10-level adventure in hardcover. They reissued the Bestiary under the Orc license instead of OGL, adding over 24 new monsters and revamping the old ones. A massive lore book on the Asian-inspired continent of Tian Sha, which, get this, won a Gold Annie Award for Best Setting, plus another nature-themed 10-level adventure split into 3 books, Wardens of Wildwood. They also playtested 2 new martial classes set up to release this year. Then we got a content book Call of the Wilds with primal options and new ancestries, including large minotaurs and centaurs. A free one-shot about sentient toys, a standalone 4-level adventure about Red Mantis assassins, and a 3-book adventure themed around opera and theater, Curtain's Call. Then they re-released the Advanced Player's Guide under the Orc license, overhauling 8 legacy classes and ancestries, from top to bottom. Then a Tiansha character guide dropped, packed with thematic options, playable half Onis, Kami spirits, some Sarans, Asian-inspired weapons, and even wandering chef archetype. To cap the year, they launched the book with 2 new classes and mythic rules, a lore book on religions and gods, and another free book orc-themed adventure. I was blown away just writing the script, even though I've read and seen it all. Oh, and a quick note, maybe not so crucial for you, but worth bragging about. Paizo releases all mechanical content free on launch day. No need to pirate books to check new classes or spells. Everything is on archives at Nephis and Demiplane. Just grab and read. Add in official Foundry VTT support, where all playable content is freely available without buying 100 modules. Plus, PF has best-in-class automation on Foundry and gorgeous implementation. And every new adventure has a paid Foundry module of insane quality, slashing prep time to just minutes. And if you want to support Paizo, you can buy all their stuff printed or in PDF format with awesome artwork. Not sponsored, by the way, and that's a shame. Paizo, send me some books, please. And let's make a small section with answers to the most frequent criticism of the system, which comes from people who, in my opinion, don't really understand the game. Number 1. Pathfinder is too crunchy or overcomplicated. 2nd edition Pathfinder is big and deep game with lots of rules, it's true, but that doesn't automatically mean that it immediately becomes super complicated and game for nerds only, though we like it very much, yes. Many of the basic mechanics of Pathfinder are much easier for beginners than the same mechanics in 5th D&D. Let's look even on free action system.
No unnecessary explanations of what a bonus action is, why you don't have abilities that use it, why you can't use 2 slotted spells per round. You just count to 3, Waltz style, and that's it. Many spells work extremely easier due to this. Try explaining to a newbie how haste or slow works in D&D. It will take you a while. While in PF, you can explain it with one picture. Add action, remove action. There is no concentrating on spells like in D&D, so you don't have to worry about losing spell due to failed concentration save. And you don't have to remember that you already have spell on concentration. So if you want just buff your fighter with 3 different buffs, go ahead and buff him. And a lot of people still believe, due to unknown reasons, that there is a lot of math involved, and they need advanced calculus and integrals during the game, when in practice all the basic numbers are added up on the character sheet. Yes, you will have plus 17 to attack, but it's a stable plus 17. You do not need to count it every turn, it's written on your character sheet, and bonuses with penalties are generally easier than in D&D 2, thanks to the fact that you can't stack them indefinitely. No more add d4 for guidance, add d8 for Bard's Inspiration, add d8 for Battlemaster's Maneuver, add +2 for Paladin's Aura, add +2 for Haste, roll with advantage and re-roll once. And some enjoyers of this, I'm not judging, say something about mathematics in Pathfinder? This is just funny. When in practice, most of the time it will be add +1 for Bard's Composition and another +1 for Assistance. For Game Master, the system is so much easier thanks to the fact that he doesn't have to work a second job to fix and patch up the game. So if I'm telling the truth, why do people from the internet say that? I think it's all matter of habit. 90% of mechanics in PF work differently than in D&D, and the same logic almost never applies. And because of the fact that people are used to one thing, they may perceive everything else as complicated or too difficult. And in reality, Pathfinder even gives you a difficulty slider in form of character creation that allows you to make your gameplay as complex or simple as you like. But of course, I understand that a newbie who has taken an alchemist can be confused by 20 different formulas and deep class mechanics. He may reasonably feel that the game is overcomplicated and bloated for nothing. But the beauty of game design is that a newbie can take the most simple barbarian or fighter and just beat enemies while playing in the same game as their super experienced alchemist friend. And they both will have fun. They will both be useful to the group. Number 2. PF2E is hard to homebrew because there is a rule for everything. It limits my creativity. There may be a rule for every situation eventually in Pathfinder, but it doesn't mean you must use every obscure rule you can find in the rulebooks. And second, their presence only makes it easier to invent something of your own. For example, your fighter wants to jump into the air and slash a dragon before landing. He has a special feat that allows him to do the same thing. Does that mean that Game Master can't allow somebody else to try and reproduce the same maneuver? Of course not. The existence of the feat just shows a reliable and easy way to do it. If Game Master doesn't know it exists, he can make it up on the fly, just like in any other game. But knowing about the existence of this feat only helps the GM to come up with suitable solution. For example, another character can try to do the same thing, but it will take all 3 actions instead of 2. Or maybe he will get a penalty on his attack roll. And that's how you can do it every time. Having many rules does not mean that you have to know them by heart, or that you are not allowed to invent something yours. If you don't know how mounted combat or underwater combat works, just improvise like in any other TTRPG on the spot. And then, if you want, you can find the rules in the book. The presence of huge number of options only gives examples for creating your homebrew, whether it be monsters, spells, items, or feats. So in my opinion, Pathfinder is easier to homebrew, and Paizo only encourage you to do so. They even have their own website where folks can sell their homebrew stuff. Check out Pathfinder Infinite. The third one of the loudest on the internet. Casters are too weak. They've been nerfed to the ground. A common reaction of newbies that take a wizard with expectations that they will be soloing every encounter and every boss with the casting of one overpowered spell, and every marshal in their group will kiss their feet In reality, casters in Pathfinder are just not broken to the extremes, and they are in the same power bracket as any other class. There's just a thing called skill expression in Pathfinder, and unlocking casters' potential requires tactical thinking and a little bit of experience. Many complain that the devs took away spellcasters' ability to deal damage and they became just buff and heal bots. This, again, can only be a conclusion of an inexperienced player. Indeed, the role of a support is often much easier. I, for example, can recommend a bard to anyone who wants to familiarize themselves with magic. And the main niche of martials is stable, resourceless damage to a single target. That's also true. But that doesn't mean that casters can't do damage and aren't good at it. Psychics, sorcerers, wizards, and even animists can deal massive damage. But if you want to achieve maximum efficiency, you will have to work with your team, manage your resources, and just kind of play well. And if you want a skill solution for your issue, I cannot recommend more the Pathfinder channel on YouTube. Bro just reads my mind. Top-notch content about casters. If you want to be a god wizard, just watch his videos, man. It's all you need. And if you want to burn crowds of enemies with smoother entry point, there is a great kineticist class that controls elements and doesn't waste any resources. In the end of the day, just remember that implementation of your class fantasy may be more difficult or easy, but you can do anything in the system. And believe me, spellcasters are my favorite classes in all of the fantasy games, and I would not play a game where they are worthless or underpowered. Mark my words. Number 4. I love narrative, and PF doesn't have it. It's a game about endless skirmishes and fights. Well, I have nothing against narrative TTRPGs. I myself am a big fan of PBTA and Blades in the Dark, Fabula Ultima, and even a little bit of Fate. Of course, Pathfinder is not from such category of games, and that's fine. Neither is D&D. It's of course first and foremost game about fights, dungeons, dragons, loot and magic. But you can't say that Pathfinder have no tools for narrative building. Actually, it kinda has more than D&D. We have small system for attitude tracking, so some NPCs may love you, some NPCs may hate you, and players can interact with it by using their social skills, your diplomacy, intimidation, deception, performance, and your checks and actions and even words can lower or raise NPCs' attitude towards you. We also have subsystems of influence where it literally matters what the character says, because NPCs can have different narrative weaknesses or resistances. We have flexible subsystems of victory points where players can invent and offer possible actions and skills. And of course our skills that can be used in big array of ways, and it's all spelled out in the rules. Even the abilities of the classes themselves are often epic and narrative. For example, Swashbuckler, who gets bonuses for swearing at enemies and doing somersaults in their faces. And of course, whether you use it all or completely ignore, it's your choice. Remember the second point. But there are more than enough narrative mechanics that create a story at the table in Pathfinder, which is, to be fair, kinda luxury for a tactical combat heavy fantasy system, don't you think? And fifth and the final one. Why should I play your PF and learn a new heavy rule system if I'm happy with my game? And many Pathfinder fans often forget the only correct answer to this. And it sounds like no reason at all, friend. In the end, it doesn't even matter what game you play, as long as you and everyone at your table are having fun and enjoying themselves. My task is not to tell you that you are wrong to enjoy playing the same D&D. On the contrary, I am only happy if your games are going great. And I made this video not because Paizo just bribed me, because it isn't true, although that would be kinda nice. Let them know. I just want to share my experience and tell you about a new game, which you may or may not like. But anyway, the variety of your RPG ration and broadening of horizons has never hurt anyone. I played D&D for years and loved it. Eventually, I cooled on it, grew disappointed with the company behind it, and found something new. Now I'm having the most fun I've ever had with this hobby. And if I've helped even one of you to find the same joy, mission accomplished. So thanks for watching till the end. And if you let me, I will talk with my born accent. It's a bit hard for me to try and pronounce each English word perfectly. It's a lot of effort, I would say. If you will let me to talk in my Eastern European accent in all other videos,
maybe I will produce them faster, who knows? Anyway, if you like the system, you can check description of this video. I will put every good channel and resource that can help you learn the game or have fun playing it. So, thank you once again. Let's make the Pathfinder into mainstream together, because I personally believe this system deserves it. If you want me to continue making videos about Pathfinder, just write a comment, like make this video, because to be truthful, I don't even know what content you all need. There are so many Pathfinder channels around there, they already do pretty good. I don't even know what niche I can occupy with my channel. And now, get out of here.